In the history of modern culture, there are moments of perfect alignment, when a person, a time, and an idea collide to create something far greater than the sum of its parts. For fashion, in the late 20th century, that collision was the supermodel. And in the pantheon of supermodels, there are icons, and then there are forces of nature. Faces that don't just sell magazines, but define an entire decade. For a time, no face was more famous, more transformative, or more powerful than that of Linda Evangelista. She was known as the chameleon, a woman who could become anyone, whose very image was a currency of untouchable glamour. But this is not just a story of a meteoric rise. It is a profound and painful story of a collision between a carefully constructed public persona and a private, altered reality. It's the story of what happens when the world's most famous face is no longer one you recognize as your own. The legend of the Linda began not under the glittering lights of Paris, but here. St. Catharines, Ontario, a quiet industrial city. Born in 1965 to Italian immigrants, Linda Evangelista was a girl who pored over fashion magazines, dreaming of a world a universe away from the life her parents, who worked at General Motors, had built. Her Bible was the Italian edition of Vogue, a window into a fantasy she was determined to make her reality. Her journey began modestly. At 16, she entered the Miss Teen Niagara pageant. She didn't win. But in the audience was a scout from the legendary Elite Model Management. That single moment was the spark. But the fire wouldn't catch for years. Her initial foray into modeling in Japan was a traumatic experience that nearly sent her home for good. But she persisted. After a bold move to Paris in 1984, she became a successful working model. She was booking jobs, making a living. But success is not the same as iconography. She was one of many beautiful faces in a city full of them. The chrysalis moment, the one that would forge a legend, came in 1988, on the advice of a man who saw what no one else did. Photographer Peter Lindbergh saw a power in her bone structure, hidden beneath her conventional long hair. He convinced her to make a decision that was, in the risk-averse fashion world, a radical act.
Her whole hair back like this, no? And took it back and held it back and said, "Is everybody okay?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah." And she started crying, no? And he took the thing, wow! It was gone in one zip.
She allowed hairstylist Julian Delis to chop it all off. The immediate reaction was shock, catastrophe even. She was unceremoniously dropped from 16 of her upcoming runway shows. The industry that prized long, flowing feminine hair saw it as an affront. It seemed like career suicide. But the risk paid off. Spectacularly.
Guaranteed me that I wouldn't fail with the short hair. And it worked. It brought me to a complete different level.
The haircut unveiled a startling new versatility. It highlighted a bone structure that could cut glass and drew all focus to her piercing, cat-like eyes. She was transformed from a pretty face into the face. This was the birth of the chameleon. With an intense, almost obsessive work ethic, she became a muse to the gods of fashion: Karl Lagerfeld at Chanel, Gianni Versace. She wasn't just wearing clothes, she was creating a character in every single frame. And in doing so, she helped architect the very concept of the supermodel. The late 80s and early 90s belonged to Linda Evangelista. She wasn't alone at the top. Along with Christy Turlington and Naomi Campbell, she formed what the press dubbed the Trinity. They were a triumvirate who transcended the runway to become global celebrities on par with movie stars and rock stars. They weren't silent mannequins, they were the embodiment of glamour, power, and high fashion. Their friendship was as famous as their faces, a bond that gave them unprecedented power in the industry. They moved as one, and the world watched. It was at this absolute zenith of influence that Evangelista made her most famous and perhaps most misunderstood declaration. In a 1990 interview with Vogue, she quipped, "We don't wake up for less than $10,000 a day." The world gasped. It was framed as the pinnacle of hubris, proof that these women had lost all touch with reality. The quote would follow her for the rest of her career, a shorthand for supermodel entitlement. But looking back, beneath the surface, it was something more complex. It was a bold, if clumsy, declaration of worth. In an industry run mostly by men, where the models, the women, out of fashion and into the stratosphere of pop culture. But a throne, no matter how high, can be a fragile thing. And for Linda, the industry that built her up around the idea of physical perfection would, in a cruel twist of fate, become the source of her deepest suffering. Around the mid-2010s, the woman whose face had been everywhere, whose image was inescapable, retreated into a profound and mysterious seclusion. For 5 years, the public heard almost nothing. The silence was total. Rumors swirled. Had she simply retired? Was she unwell? The mystery only deepened. And when that silence was finally broken in September 2021, the truth was more tragic and bizarre than anyone could have imagined. In a raw, vulnerable Instagram post, Evangelista explained the tragedy that had derailed her life. She wrote, "To my followers who have wondered why I have not been working while my peers' careers have been thriving, the reason is that I was brutally disfigured by Zeltick's coolsculpting procedure, which did the opposite of what it promised." Between 2015 and 2016, she underwent 7 sessions of coolsculpting, a popular FDA-approved fat-freezing procedure designed to be a non-invasive alternative to liposuction. But she experienced a rare and devastating side effect known as paradoxical adipose hypertrophy, or PAH. The condition, which affects less than 1% of patients, caused the targeted fatty tissue to expand, harden, and form permanent masses rather than shrink. The result was catastrophic. The woman once celebrated as the ultimate chameleon was, in her own words, permanently deformed. She described developing hard, numb bulges on her chin, thighs, and bra area, the very areas she had tried to perfect. The physical transformation plunged her into a cycle of deep depression, shame, and self-loathing. The ultimate cruel irony: the supermodel who could be anyone was now trapped in a body she couldn't recognize. She confessed to People magazine, her voice breaking in the interview.
Do you see the angle of my arms?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't put them next to my body because this bulge is making them veer off in an angle. Versace won't want to dress me with that sticking out of my body.
Supermodel who had defined beauty for a generation now felt she had lost her own identity. She became a recluse, suing the parent company, Zeltick, for $50 million in damages, claiming the procedure had left her unemployable. For years, she suffered in private. But in 2022, Linda Evangelista chose to do the one thing she thought she'd never do again. She chose to be seen. Her reemergence has been a masterclass in courage, a powerful act of reclaiming her own story. It began with a campaign for Fendi, then the most coveted cover in fashion, the September issue of British Vogue. In the photos, she is undeniably Linda, but she was also undeniably honest. She revealed to the magazine that for the shoot, her face and jaw were gently taped back by the makeup artist. She wasn't hiding this fact, she was owning it. She was confronting the camera with a new kind of honesty, acknowledging that while the image is always a fantasy created by stylists and lighting and makeup, the act of showing up was entirely her own. This comeback is not about recapturing the past. It's about appearing as herself in the present. She is a woman bearing the visible and invisible scars of her trauma, yet refusing to be defined by them. It is a powerful subversion of the very industry that once prized her for her flawless ability to transform. Now her power comes not from being a chameleon, but from her willingness to be seen. vulnerable, imperfect, and human. Linda Evangelista's legacy is now twofold. It is a story of two faces. She will forever be the supermodel who, with a daring haircut and an indomitable spirit, defined an era of untouchable glamour, a face that launched 1,000 ships and sold 1 million magazines. But she is also becoming a symbol of something more enduring, a testament to the profound strength required to face down public and private demons, to reclaim a narrative steeped in pain, and to redefine beauty on one's own terms. Her story is a stark reminder of the crushing pressure of perfection, but also a powerful lesson that true beauty is not an absence of flaws, but the courage to show up fully and completely as yourself. Linda Evangelista's journey is one of the most complex and moving in fashion history. What do you remember most about her incredible career? And what do you think of her courageous return? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to Faded Vogue for more untold stories from the world of fashion and fame. Thanks for watching.